Most gracious and Heavenly Father, as we come to you today, we do take so many things for granted, Lord, about where we live and the people that are around us, and we are so blessed. We just come to you and want to say thank you so much for all that you do for us. And Lord, we ask that you continue to keep your hand upon the leadership in our state and at the federal government, that we make the right choices and we do the things that will be most pleasing to you. Be with us today during our meeting for the county and help guide us and direct us to make good choices. For we ask this in Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, thank you all for being here and for taking the time. And we'll move right into our second item, which is the public forum. Madam Clerk, will you please call the first speaker?
Mr. Chairman and members of council, I call David Bowden. David Bowden. Mr. Chairman and members of council, this concludes the public forum.
Okay, that was quick. All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Our next item is item number 3, approval of minutes. I'll ask for a motion approving the minutes for the June 1st, 2020 council meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Feimster.
Second.
Second by Councilman Hudson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And that motion carries. Item number 4 is our administrator's report. Mr. Roper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things I would like to update you on of a quick nature, and then one I want to spend a little more time on. One is just a COVID update as we continue to deal with this, updating some local numbers. You'll see that there's 394 active cases in Pickens County. That's cases that have tested positive in the last 14 days. We've had 7 deaths in Pickens County and a total of 1,194 confirmed cases since we had our first case back on March 20th. You'll see the South Carolina numbers there, 1,532 new cases on yesterday, July the 12th. Total a little over 58,000 confirmed cases in all 46 counties throughout South Carolina. Now, our numbers, if you go to the next slide, the red number represents the total, so you're just looking at the slope of that. That's the total for Pickens County. It's going to increase, obviously, over time. You're going to look at the slope, maybe is the most important thing. But then the blue line represents how many active cases that we have. And so there's some amount, some suggestion of slightly good news there, in the sense that over the last several days, you've seen our cases, our active cases number come down from a little over 500 to down below. The latest update today was, I think, 398. I think that was what was on the last slide. So we're encouraged a little bit that we're not seeing that growth continuing up in that fashion, but obviously we're still wary. We're still doing what protocols we can. For example, here in the building, if people can be in their own offices and they can be distant from folks, they're not required to wear a mask, but if we go out and our employees go out and get in the hallways and around the public, we require them to mask up, or if they are around other people in their workspace where they can't get away. So we're trying to do reasonable, limited, polite and respectful things as we look to combat this, and we're trying to encourage other folks to do that as well. We're encouraged a little bit about the recent numbers, but of course, keep a wary eye as it develops.
So the red line will never go down?
It'll never go down. So maybe it starts growing slower, but it's never going to go down. Okay. That's purely, each case adds to that line. I want to talk to you just real quick about Mile Creek Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, and then a couple of other departments. This is the first department I want to talk to about, and I'm just going to start out by bragging on them a little bit because I've got Ms. Fowler here with me. Many of you have probably seen the Mile Creek Park office. The Mile Creek Park office was in, there was a lot of leftover furniture that we'd been able to cobble together. It was a cold room. It was full of some junk, some storage. Well, Ms. Fowler and her staff got together, and basically by pinching pennies at the end of the last budget year, by doing some pretty strict comparison shopping for putting some of their own elbow grease in it, our building maintenance doing some painting. Actually, I think they supplied the paint. Y'all did the painting. Is that right? They completely changed the look of the Mile Creek Park office, and they did it at minimal taxpayers' expense. And I was just really proud and wanted to show y'all and to thank them publicly for the way that they're stretching those tax dollars to make that place work better, to be more inviting, and to be something we'll all be proud of. Some of those items they brought from home. I mean, that's how committed they were to making it look good. So I was very pleased with that. But let's talk about raw numbers. This is a report that the tourism department prepared for us that they're going to keep showing us. On the far left, you'll see 2018 dollars, 2018 revenues. You'll see the total amount of revenues there. And Megan, if you're driving, if you could zoom in a little bit. You'll see the total revenues at Mile Creek Park were $290,000. And then in 2019, compare that, you'll see that it went up to $391,741. And you may say, well, what do you attribute the jump? The jump was the cabins came online. The cabins came online and brought a lot more income to Mile Creek Park. So the point of tonight's update is, well, how have we been impacted by COVID? One of the things you all know and have discussed openly in previous meetings is that our tax revenues, our property tax revenues are fairly predictable. We're not going to suddenly see a fall off in property tax revenue. We may see, a small change, but nothing major. What we're more worried about is the other revenue side. So I wanted to show you a comparison, and Megan, if you could go over and roll down, keep going, you're doing right. I want to see the very top. I guess I should say it that way. The very top, January through June 2019, pre-COVID. You'll see January through June, $179,804. January through June this year, which includes 2 weeks where we were shut down completely, $318,062. Mile Creek Park is not seeing a decrease in revenue, quite the opposite. One of the things that's happening in COVID is people want to get out. They want to take advantage of the public spaces, and we're seeing that in the park revenue. That's a 43.5% increase, and we'll send you the rest of these numbers today to show you what that breaks down into versus camping, day use permits, annual passes, things like that. But I want to let you know that the Mile Creek Park revenue is strong. Now, it'll be less graphic, but I want to show you what the Register of Deeds income looks like. This is going to be really hard to see. But go all the way to the bottom if you could, Megan. The Register of Deeds, the nature of them is they're not going to produce 3 color things for you. It's all going to be black and white, right? That's the nature of what they do. But you'll see up to date, is that the far right-hand side, Megan? Yeah. This is what they brought in so far this calendar year, January to June, through the COVID period, $3.166 million in filing fees. What that tells us is 2 things. One is it tells us real estate activity is still going well. The other thing is state law changed to come up with some flat fee structures. Regardless, if you look what we had this year, at this calendar year to date, I may have said fiscal, but I meant calendar year. Roll down to the very bottom down there on that side, and you'll see that's 2.947. So we've almost had $200,000 more this year in the Register of Deeds side than we had to date last year. Does that apply to any other departments? Well, another example that we looked at was the planning department. You'll see planning even gets more generic than the Register of Deeds with how graphic they are to present it to you. But in fiscal year, this is fiscal year 2019, they had a little over 2,100 permits. Their permit payments collected were $662,992. 58 cases before the Planning Commission, a small amount of money there. Fiscal year 20, including the COVID time, you can see the number of permits, basically the same. Total permit payment collected more than the year previously. What I intend to do is to continue giving you this update over the next few months so that y'all will see how revenues are doing. Right now the news is good. With all the negative news we're receiving, one thing that seems to be the case is that real estate's doing well, the parks are doing well, people are still submitting their plans for new subdivisions, new buildings, those sorts of things, and so we're encouraged by that. Regardless, I wanted to report that to you. Any questions before we move on? All right, again, we'll update you next month so we can keep month over month looking at those revenues. I want to tell you a story, ladies and gentlemen, about the Pickens County Board of Voter Registration and Elections in Pickens County. I want to tell you a story that goes back to late February, early March of this year. In late February, early March, our Director of Elections, Rodney Allen, indicated he was resigning. You'll recall that we've had some tumultuous times with our Board of Voters Registration and Elections, and we've had some elections that's had some problems in the last few years. Once we knew that Director Allen was resigning, I, along with the HR staff, went and met with his two assistants. Not many people know this. I met with his assistants and with HR present, offered them jobs to continue where they were or to work somewhere else in the county if they wanted out of the elections office. I thought they were probably not involved in the day-to-day politics of that position, and they seemed to come to work on time, and we wanted to keep them. They declined and indicated they wanted to leave on March 31st. So we respected that. We knew that the office would be unstaffed. We were a little disturbed when on March 31st, we also received a letter from the remaining members of the Election Commission saying that they were resigning effective March 31st. So they sent us a post-dated letter to be delivered to us on the day, March 31st, with an election not 2 months away. Obviously, we were very disturbed by this, but I was trying to decide what we needed to do. On one hand, I could have said, well, the elections office doesn't report to the administrator, so I'm not going to worry about it. But I thought about that, and I knew that June 9th was approaching and that we had many important things that needed to be determined by the voters, and I took that seriously. So I called our library director, Stephanie Howard, who is with us tonight. Stephanie is over here. And I said, Stephanie, since y'all are closed down for COVID, can you send me a couple of employees just to man the office? And she said, sure. And she sent me a couple of employees. And I don't think she has any bad employees, but I assumed that she would send me employees that she could spare. She sent me the manager of the Pickens and Liberty branch, and also Dr. Margaret Holder, and also Dr. Hollenbach, who is back here with us tonight. They came in, and the mess that they found, I hate that we did not document with photographs, Dr. Hollenbach. Nevertheless, we were able to get Mr. Herb Thompson, who still held his commission through the end of the month, till midnight the night he came up here. I called him about 3 o'clock. He was here by about 4. You see Ms. Holder and Dr. Hollenbach there, and you see the late Herb Thompson, who has passed away now, longtime public servant in Pickens County. Till the very last minute of his service, he was willing to do whatever it took to make that election happen. And he is there swearing in so that they could do the work they needed to do the next day to make sure that the election happened on June the 9th. They went to work with no experience and with no board, no expertise. They would ask me questions and I would tell them, I don't know. But they figured it out. They worked diligently, and then someone else stepped in, and I think the next slide will show you those folks. The delegation. The members of the delegation, you see Senator Rice, Representative Clary, Representative Hyatt there. There are other members of the delegation, obviously, but those members of the delegation stepped up and expedited a board appointment process through the governor's office. We don't, you don't, they don't appoint the elections board. The governor appoints. We needed it done yesterday, but they went to work and they got us a board appointed. And you'll see some of those members there, and I want to call their names. Jim Little, who you see on the left there, Lillian Boatwright, who's Mr. Little serves as the chairman, Lillian Boatwright serves as the secretary, Mr. Richard Reese, you'll see there in the middle, Robert Rawton, who's there on the right, Amanda Boaknight, who was appointed a few days later, and Charles Titus, who serves now as the vice chairman. They were appointed on April 24th, 3 weeks after the other board members. So for 3 weeks, we operated without a board. Luckily, that coincided with the emergency declaration, so we actually had the authority to do this. But they got appointed and they took charge, and between April 24th and a few days later, they took resumes. We'd had the job posted for some time, and they hired Travis Alexander. You'll see Travis Alexander there, although his glasses have turned a shade, so you'll have to look and see Travis Alexander back here in the back. Right, same coat, yeah. Travis Alexander was brought on board with basically 30 days to organize an election, a feat that we were told, members of council, in the letter where the board members resigned, we were told it was impossible to run an election in Pickens County. Well, he came in with 30 days notice, and you'll see in his bio there, I included that on purpose because he's got some background as a track coach and a cross-country coach, and I watched him coach this office and these volunteers. And if you could go to the next, this is election night. He came up with a whole new system, brand new on the job, for routing in the machines and the counters. It was organized. He had volunteers crawling all over him. You see, as each car would pull up, those are cars from the precincts delivering the results and the machines. He had volunteers that would swarm those cars, take the signs out and everything, all the materials. And some of you were there. If you go back, Megan, one more thing there, I apologize. Something that we have not done in many elections, Mr. Alexander, his staff, and his volunteers had results reported to the state by 10 o'clock that night. Little things that you might notice, if you can go to the next slide. We don't have before pictures, gentlemen, to show you, but I want to show you afters. When I went into the elections office on March 30th, you could not physically walk through the passageways in between the offices. It was so disorganized and stacked full of nonsense that hadn't been needed in years that you couldn't get around. Now, all the time they were telling us, we need more space. These folks went in and organized that space, spent a great deal of time. This board, I witnessed them up there sweating with COVID masks on, cleaning out offices. But they organized it, and then another person stepped up, which was Ralph Garino, and go to the next slide. Ralph Garino in the finance department and the IT department could not wait for the moment to get in there and organize. And you'll see everything hanging up. It's so organized that all of the vote here signs, the arrows are pointing in the same direction. This is organization. This is public servants doing what we want them to do. This is the kind of people I want to work with. Next slide. I just want to say in front of you gentlemen, to these people that were involved in this story, thank you. Pickens County owes you a great debt of gratitude, and I appreciate everything all of them did. Gentlemen, that's a little bit beyond what I would normally do in an administrator's report, but what I watched them do was beyond what most government workers would normally do. They've inspired me, they've inspired other people in this building, and they've showed an attitude that we really want. One little footnote to the story, Dr. Hollenbach found her calling. She didn't go back to the library. She asked to stay with the elections office.
Sorry.
So thanks, Stephanie, for that. Nevertheless.
Mr. Roper.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say, a lot of the problems we had was in my district. And I'm not going to get into rehash everything that happened. It was probably take me 30 minutes to my experiences. It was unacceptable. And I just want them to know, and especially the director and all the workers, that I got great reports from my areas. Everything went smooth. You guys did a great job. And whether you know it or not, you kept me from getting a lot of phone calls. So thank you.
I'd like to add a comment too. I have worked off and on for over 20 years during elections and this is one of the smoothest ones I've seen.
Thank you, gentlemen. That concludes my report tonight, unless you have questions.
Any questions?
On a couple of numbers, cases in Pickens County, there's no way to track what age groups, the areas for that.
We have that.
All students report back to one.
We have some of that data, and I don't have it available for you tonight, but far and away the largest group in the state of South Carolina, and I think Mr. Bowers, you can confirm if I'm right or wrong about this, but my memory of the data is that far and away, the age group 21 to 30 is where most of the positives are coming right now. I guess the plurality of the positives, more in that age group than any other age group. So it's the youngest, like upper college, young adult that seems to be testing positive the most. That's not where most of the 18 and below. I have that data. I don't recall where they rank, but I'll get that for you.
Any other questions? Mr. Roper, thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Our next item is item number 5, our committee reports. The Committee of the Whole met in the main conference room at the Pickens County Administration Facility on Monday, June the 15th. Log number 105, E911, no action was taken. Log number 146, recreation funding request, no action was taken. Log number 147, accommodations tax, no action taken by the committee, and they asked the staff to reach out to each applicant to see if their event has been rescheduled due to COVID-19. Log number 151, emergency services structure, no action was taken. Log number 153, we had a discussion on an ordinance number 584 to amend the Pickens County procurement ordinance for the purpose of increasing county's procurement policy from 3 to 5%. That increased the preference for supporting local businesses. Vice Chairman Bowers made the motion to move the ordinance out of the committee for third reading, and motion seconded by Wes Hendricks. Motion carried 5-1. We have public hearing and third reading in title only of ordinance. Is that right? In title only?
It can't be in title only.
Yeah, that's not right. We have third reading of ordinance 584 to amend the Pickens County procurement ordinance for the purpose of increasing county's procurement policy from 3% to 5% to increase the preference for supporting local businesses. So before we do anything else, I'd like to go ahead and call us into order for a public hearing on third reading of ordinance number 584. Does anybody have any comments? All right, then, we'll come out of public hearing. And since this comes as a recommendation for committee, it does not require a second, I'd ask for if there are any comments on this.
One of the things that I'm a little concerned about, this might go on forever, and I'm thinking we should maybe limit it to 3 years and then renew it if we desire.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we had in the motion, we had a 3-year sunset in it.
Oh, did it?
Yes,
I
yes,
didn't
sir.
see that. I'm sorry.
That was the motion made out of committee.
So yeah, good job catching it, because
Strike
we're
it.
right there with you. All right, so there's already a 3-year sunset on that. Is there any other discussion on this?
Hold
I'm looking for it in here. I don't
see it either.
see it anything. I have several thoughts on this, but in essence, to save time, all my thoughts were made in the committee, the whole meeting. And so I'm not going to indulge into that now, but I will be voting against it.
I need to make sure that we've got the 3-year sunset in here. Okay.
Do we need to, because this is the way it's written, is that way, so to change it, we have to amend it, don't we? Right, but what we're voting on is.
In other words, this was before we're not voting on this. We're voting on the amendment that's already
The
happened.
amended version.
The 3 years.
But how come it wasn't brought to us amended as we already amended it in committee? Just,
I'll make the motion that
I think
we
it's
take,
over,
we'll add a 3-year sunset to the end of the 3% preferred person policy will only apply to each local business once per fiscal year, July 1 through the 30th, and will end 3 years from the date.
Second. All right, there's a motion and a second. This is already amended, but we can go ahead and vote on it
Make us all
again.
feel better.
Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. That motion carries. Now on to the third reading of ordinance number 584. As amended, for the Pickens County procurement ordinance to increase from 3 to 5% preference for supporting local businesses. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you for your indulgence on that. On to log number 154 as part of our Committee of the Whole report. We had a discussion on ordinance number 586 to amend the Pickens County procurement ordinance for the purpose of allowing local Chamber of Commerce representatives to serve as an advisory group according to section 2-296. We had no action taken by committee for that. Log number 155, discussion of an ordinance number 587 to create small business retention grant program. At that time, I had made a motion to park the money and change the ordinance, have the conversation at a later date as far as the money. That motion was seconded and Vice Chairman Bowers and carried unanimously. So we now have the third reading of ordinance number 587 that will create the fund from tax sales overages amounts. So it just creates the fund. I would like to make a motion to amend this by designating the funds for this year and this year only for COVID response. And I'll explain more if you guys will allow me to get that into the amended motion.
I'll second the
Just to hear what I'm going to say. I knew that's what you're going to say. So motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Well, no,
we
don't
gotta
vote. Sorry.
discussion.
Discussion. Now let me say what I was going to talk. Golly, that was terrible. Okay, so I'm pulling up my phone here because I wanted to make reference to, in Lufkin, Texas, they created a fund whereby community paramedicine program where it enlists off-duty firefighters and paramedics to deliver groceries and medications to the doorsteps of those infected with COVID-19. The off-duty first responders could volunteer to help keep on-duty staff assisting emergency calls. They kind of helped pioneer the program in Texas, and it's safer because it's safer than sending a unit out to pick up a COVID-positive resident. The goal is to keep those infected at home safe and prevent community spread. So I got this email today. I wanted to add this as an amendment simply because you're trying to watch. I got calls from the mayor of Anderson. I got calls from the mayor of Central, and I'll talk to the folks in Greenville, and everybody's taking a stand. And whether or not you're a mask wearer, you're not a mask wearer, the debate seems to that becomes political. So I'd like to take the political side out of it and go more towards where I really believe that Pickens County we're filled with a county of people that really do care about each other. And what I mean by that is, last year, if I had gotten a stomach virus, I wouldn't go run up and see Pop because I wouldn't want to get him sick, because I care. So I would stay at home. And if we can help work to not only educate and get the information out to people, create a marketing campaign that's not just from us, but just from as many people as we can to say, look, we really do care about each other. We really want you to, if you're sick, stay home. And by the way, if you need help, we're going to help try to do that. And I believe that since we have this money that's available and we can designate it for one time, just for once, for a year, then why not designate it for a COVID response on that so that we can help those people who might need that help and keep them at home. And now we're getting to my opinion. I believe that the reason that it is spreading more is because people who are sick, not just because they won't wear a mask or not just because they won't social distance, but it's because they won't stay home and they're not taking it serious enough and they're going out and unintentionally infecting other people. So that was the reason that I wanted to make this amendment to designate those funds to be used for a COVID response, one, on marketing and getting the message out to the people who live here. Listen, we care about each other. We can disagree from a political standpoint on everything else, but we can come together and we can agree that we really do care about each other. And we get that message to people, and then we offer them the support by designating that money to get make whatever things happen. So that was my reason.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I understand your passion for the subject, 100%. I think that ordinance number 587, I don't think that amendment needs to be on ordinance 587. I think ordinance number 587 ought to go through as it's listed here, and then I think the committee of the whole would be a great opportunity to have the conversation that you want to have about how to spend that money. If you look at ordinance 587, it doesn't say what we're going to do with the money. It specifically mentions COVID-19. It specifically mentions small businesses, and it specifically mentions the well-being and safety of the citizens of this county, which I believe that money would work perfectly if 587 created the fund. What you're wanting to do out of the fund would be perfect, but I think the conversation of how to spend the money.
Actually, but what I'm trying to do, so I'm
ordinance.
sort of agreeing to, or disagreeing a little bit. I'm saying, yes, we're creating this ordinance to be able to take these funds and be able to use it for purposes, and we need to decide what those are going to be. What I don't want to do is belabor the point and wait 3 months, 2 months down the road before we decide on actually how we're going to do this. I think right now, today, is when we need to be out there educating people as much as we can. It has to do with, you know, things that you're talking about doing also, but really getting the message out. Look, guys, we care about each other. If you care about the people who live here, let's work together on this. If I go into a store and they say you have to wear a mask, I'm going to wear the mask, or I'm not going to shop at the store. I mean, it's just that simple. But if I'm sick, I'm sorry, but if I'm sick, I'm not going to go out. I'm going to stay home. And now if we can take advantage of like what they did in Lufkin, Texas, where we're able to help those people who, you know, there's a lot of times people get sick and then they're like, well, I've got to go out, I don't have any choice. Or you can call us here and we can help.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I would, I agree with Vice Chairman Bowers on this. I don't have a problem with the idea. The problem is that we don't have specifics on how we're spending. And this is taxpayers' money, even though it's overages that would go back to us. It still comes from the taxpayer. You know, it should have gone to the owners of the sale.
It's actually not taxpayers' money. It's the money that
But
they
it would
paid.
go-
They paid over. They bid higher than it's their money.
Right.
They never
They never claimed it, so it goes back into
their
the
money,
It
but-
goes back into the general fund.
Right.
And so I guess before spending any money, I like to know exactly what we're spending it on. And I think the place to have that conversation is by keeping the ordinance clean and then saying, okay, if you have an idea for a marketing campaign, well, what's it going to cost? What are we going to market? What needs to be marketed? What are we looking at? Are we just looking at someone picking this up? How much money are we talking about? How much money needs to be spent? I just don't feel comfortable throwing something out there and saying, let's just dedicate that money there without knowing exactly how it's going to do what it's going to do, so that we know that it works. And one of the things that we talk about is making sure that as we spend taxpayer dollars, that we know that it's going to do what we intend it to do and the way we intend to do it. And that's my only point with that, is it's just a little vague for me.
I agree with you. So, but all I'm trying to do is get it allocated toward a COVID response. I'm not saying that gives our administrator a credit card to say, okay, I can go spend whatever I want to. No, that means this is our goal this year. Come back with a plan. Tell us where you're spending the money.
Well, I think you have an idea. We could just direct how much money are we talking about this year? $84,000 is a lot of money. Not to come up with a plan to spend $84,000, but if you have a picture of what you want to do, have them come up with a plan that shows something, and then if it looks like, because it may not be that much money needs to get spent, or maybe it may be something that can be done a different way. I don't know.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just to kind of clarify my point, and you hit the nail on the head, it's to keep the ordinance clean. If you read the ordinance, it actually, the way I read it, it's intended for COVID-19 response across board, whether that response is bailing out a small business, probably not, but bailing out a small business or whatever it may be, or maybe it's education, because I'm big on education. You're 100% right there. Or maybe it's in helping Meals on Wheels in some way, shape. Some of the things we did early on in the process, we need to do again as numbers go up. but for the intent of keeping the ordinance clean, and Councilman Whitehurst said that, and that's exactly it. It may be that we have to call an emergency meeting next week to vote to spend the money. I don't know. But I agree, I think writing a blank check is not the way to do it.
My intent wasn't to write a blank check. My intent was to say, this year, we're not going to do anything else other than COVID response, and we're going to get that back.
But I think the ordinance covers that.
Well, we can designate it for whatever we want to. If we want to designate it for grants for small business owners, we can do grants for small business owners. Or if we want to do
COVID-19 response.
or if we want to do COVID-19 response, to me, I want to earmark more towards getting out, creating a marketing campaign so people understand why we should care, because I think we do, and try to keep it from being political, because people have taken the whole thing and made it political. You're either on this side or this side, and there's nothing in the middle. And I'm saying the middle is the part where we care. Now, can you create something, not $84,000, how much, I don't know how much marketing campaign is going to cost based on how to try to reach the people in Pickens County. I don't know how much it's going to cost, nor I don't know how you budget for that. If somebody's sick and at home, if Granny's sick at home and she needs help, or she's getting ready to get in the car and she goes, you know what, I can call this number and I can have one of the emergency services folks that are off duty come and help us with that. I'd like to look at modeling it after what they did in Texas, and us take care of the people that are here, but using that money for that. Not to, that's all I'm saying, is just to designate it, that's the direction that we're going. And for this year only. I'm not saying change the ordinance, I'm saying we're allocating it, we're earmarking it this year for that purpose.
I'd like us to have a committee of the whole meeting, say in a couple of weeks, so we can go ahead and get started. So, and decide what we really would do with all that money.
Right, okay, so now I'm gonna express my frustration, and then we can call for a vote. My frustration is, we do a committee of the whole meeting in a couple of weeks. We're doing one in a few minutes, but we can't talk about it then because it's not on the agenda.
Right.
We set up one for a couple of weeks from now, and we do a committee of the whole meeting. Then we've got all the way until August before we actually create a response, whereas we could start working now. He can't do this overnight.
So, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully disagree with you, because we can give staff direction at any time. It's not going to take a vote of council how to spend the money formally if you follow the ordinance. It would literally be majority of council, staff understands where we want them to go with it, and that's the way we do everything else. So there's no reason for us to have to wait to come back for an August meeting to vote to say, this is the way we want to spend the money, the way this ordinance is written before us.
Right, but you're right. We can call a special called meeting at any time.
And it doesn't take a vote of council to give staff direction.
Takes a vote of council to give staff direction to spend money if it's going to cost something.
But we can have them come up with a plan,
Not
present
the
it back
way-
to us and see, because we don't know what all the needs are. We think we know. We're looking at what they did in Texas. What is it that we're trying to, I'm just getting a fuzzy look as to what we need to do, and I think staff can reach out and find out, okay, what are the needs in our community? And what is the best way to address those needs?
Well, just to get back to the point of the ordinance, and gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong, but if this ordinance allocates that money to be spent for COVID-19 response, does it require a vote of council every time you want to spend $1 out of that account?
I would say based on our practice, put in an account that's designated for a purpose. That falls in day-to-day operation. So if it's designated, for example, to buy tires, or to do repairs, to buy tires, that's where I think it's more. If it's designated to a purpose,
But the ordinance doesn't designate it specifically for COVID.
so that's why I say it's point for weight, but if council has specific structure they want to do it like, or you want me to come back and propose it, it's impossible, certainly,
So I'm thinking back, and the marketing study and plan is one of the things. We parked some ATAX money anticipating, and we told you to go out and find us a marketing company or find us a marketing plan, whatever. And I don't remember us actually having to vote on, we're going to spend this amount of money, or we're gonna do this, or we gave you direction because you knew if you came back in the wrong direction without asking, you'd have to answer for it.
I'm going to disagree. We told him how much money to spend. We voted on the amount of money.
Okay. I'm just thinking there are times where we give direction and we ask, do we need to vote on that? And you said, no, I think the direction's fine.
I think it depends on how much y'all want to be involved in what the common is. There are times when y'all maybe a technical and we can do those things. There are times y'all want to be very involved in this.
What I would like to see is be able to direct you to find out what are the needs that we're looking at in the community that are resolving. Is there some unfilled areas that we can help out where maybe it's transportation or I don't know. Maybe it's COVID testing. I don't know. Maybe it's math. I don't know. But if we could find out, if we could direct you to find out what that is, come back to us and say, here's what we've discovered. Okay? And then we can say, yeah, okay, let's spend some money to address that. I don't want to get into addressing something that may or may not be an issue. It may be an issue out there in Texas. We don't know what it is here specifically. We know there's some issues, but we don't know exactly. Are there problems because of in Texas they've got people that don't have public transportation?
Well,
we don't have public transportation
I will
here.
tell you what the issue is. There are the mask wearers and the non-mask wearers, and they've made it political. I want to say, fine, let's just talk about how we care about each other. And I want to create a marketing campaign to let people understand, using an example like I did with Granny and Pop, how I'm not going to get them sick if I'm sick. And I was thinking, well, if we're going to do that, then I got to be able to help that person who wants to get out and go do something. So let's figure out a way to do that, similar to what we did with the task force as you created that. But we had to declare a state of emergency to do that. Don't want to declare a state of emergency to recreate that task force, but is there a way to be able to earmark those funds? Still, I will say this. I gotta quit doing that. I will say this. I will withdraw my motion to amend as long as you agree with the withdrawal. But I'm very disappointed because we are talking about the speed of government, and if you don't think that we need to do something now, you need to start listening to all these other phone calls that I'm getting from the mayors and from councilmen saying, we got to do something. And as soon as we start talking mask is when everybody says, well, which camp are you in? And I'm like, I'm not in either one. I'm in the camp that cares.
I don't know if we can depoliticize this. I think it's a very politicized issue.
I do too.
And I don't think we can depoliticize it personally. And I could be wrong. And I'll stand to correct it. I would love to see
That's
that.
actually but that's all I was trying to do is take out the politics of it and just look at how do we care for the people that are sick? How do we encourage people to realize that if you are sick, stay home, right? We'll help take care of you where we can.
But there's excuse me, from dealing with the public for many years in my line of work, there's a certain level of intelligence you'll never fix regardless of what you do.
Well, I mean, I actually, all I'm talking about is
I understand what
in
your
general,
goal is,
it's,
but
I'm not talking about level of intelligence. There's different opinions, and we represent them all, right? We represent these people and these people. I'm trying to figure out what's the common ground. The common ground is, regardless of the level of intelligence, regardless of which side you fall on, mask or not, we can agree that we care about each other.
true. But there's some people that, regardless of what you do, you beat your head on the wall.
Right. Well, I withdraw my motion to amend.
Can I make a comment for you?
Sure.
To withdraw. I agree with everything you're saying. My heartache or my heartburn is I just signing a $84,000 blank check to say let's do a marketing campaign. It's not, and that's the way that the motion is perceived.
So I don't know how I could actually change that to, I'd like to make a motion to earmark it for COVID without any money attached to it until a plan is returned to us from staff.
Well, I think we can direct staff to come up with, find out if we have unfulfilled needs in the community. You know, I honestly don't know that we can, if we could change the mask, no mask thing, I think we would change America.
You understand what I'm saying?
Which would be
I'm
great.
saying this year, in this ordinance, because it can go for a lot of different things, even though it has some examples of what it can go by, I'm saying put for this.
So we direct him to do it, and then if we like it, we'll, but I want to see something before I spend money. That's just me.
Somewhere else. I am going to agree with you on that. I don't think that it necessarily, I'm not saying, I don't want, my motion is not to give him a blank check. My motion is not to say, hey, go spend $84,000. Cool, good luck. It is my motion is only, let's make this year our COVID response.
Okay, and I think we can do that without having to amend this.
Okay, well, I'll withdraw it.
I will withdraw my second.
All right, then we'll vote on the ordinance coming out of committee, on ordinance number 587. Yeah, that's right. No seconds required. So is there any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. That motion carries. On to...
Mr. Chairman, while you're still in committee report, log number...
Did I skip something?
154, no, we said no action, but we did talk about amending an ordinance. Is that something we'll do at a later date? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
But we don't have any action taken. We
No,
didn't
I
take
just
any
wanna
action
make
this way. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
On to item number 6, council correspondence. And let's see. Committee of the Whole is going to meet immediately following this meeting in this auditorium. There's no other scheduled council meeting in the month of July. The next council meeting will be Monday, August the 10th at 6:30 in this auditorium, and the August Committee of the Whole meeting will take place on August 17th in the main conference room of this facility. Is there any other correspondence that needs to be announced? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to motion period and new business. Now that we're in that time period, does anybody have any new business?
Mr. Chairman, I had the pleasure of serving on the mask committee with the City of Easley to discuss a mask ordinance resolution, thoughts, served with community leaders, business owners, and medical professionals, and just general public. We came out of that meeting with the idea of a resolution. I will provide you with a copy of what I am making a motion that we adopt as county council. Pretty much the gist of it is, it talks about the fact that COVID's very real, and pretty much strongly encouraging education for mask and good hygiene and social distance and all the things you were talking about with the marketing plan. I do agree with that 100%. And encouraging those that cannot be socially distanced to wear a mask, and then face coverings for retail establishments, food services, et cetera, Not an ordinance, because I do believe the only way to make a difference with the COVID response is to educate the public, to encourage the public, and then because you cannot enforce something like that. So I do want to bring a motion for a resolution tonight. And I don't know if you'd like to read that, or if you'd like for me to.
You can read it.
Okay. Recommending individuals wear face coverings in public buildings and retail and food service establishments, whereas the 2019 novel coronavirus is a respiratory disease that can result in serious illness or death by SARS-CoV-2 virus, and whereas on March 13, 2020, the President of the United States declared that the COVID-19 outbreak in the United States constitutes a national emergency, and whereas also on March 13, 2020, the Governor of the State of South Carolina issued Executive Order 2020-08, declaring a state of emergency based on determination that the COVID-19 poses an actual or imminent public health emergency for the state, and whereas the Governor has subsequently declared a continuous state of emergency in Executive Orders 2020-15, 2020-23, 2020-29, 2020-35, 2020-38, 2020-40, and 2020-42, and whereas South Carolina is experiencing a dramatic increase in the number of identified new COVID-19 cases, and as of July 13, 2020, the total number of persons affected are as follows: South Carolina, 58,003 confirmed cases and 961 confirmed deaths, and Pickens County has 1,194 total confirmed cases and 7 confirmed deaths, Whereas health authorities, including the CDC, the Surgeon General of the United States, and DHEC have recommended the use of face coverings as a means of preventing the spread of COVID-19. Now, therefore, it is strongly recommended and encouraged by the Pickens County Council as follows. Number one, face coverings be worn by all customers while inside an enclosed area of a public building and retail establishment. And retail establishments should require staff to wear face coverings while working in areas open to the general public and in areas which interactions with other staff are likely in which social distancing of at least 6 feet cannot be observed. And food service establishments should require staff who interact with customers, including without limitation, delivery personnel, to wear face coverings while working. Face coverings in this resolution means a uniform piece of cloth, fabric, or other material that securely covers a person's nose, mouth, and remains affixed in place without the use of one's hands. Face coverings include, but are not limited to, bandanas, medical masks, cloth masks, scarves, gaiters, provided that they are worn in such a way that they securely cover the person's nose and mouth. And that is my motion tonight, that we pass this resolution, strongly encouraging and for it to also include an educational piece to the community.
Okay, so before we have discussion, there's a motion that we add this to the agenda for new business. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor that we're adding this to the, for new business today, signify by raising your hand.
For discussion,
This is adding it
Add
to
to
new
the
business.
agenda.
Yeah,
just for discussion.
correct.
Yeah.
I do it for discussion now.
Okay, it has to be unanimous, is that way?
Oh.
Okay, so, motion carries. So, now discussion on this resolution.
Okay, if we're gonna pass this, then where's all our masks? Because we can't ask the public to do something we're not doing.
I understand your point.
And my personal opinion is a personal choice. I haven't went anywhere in 2 weeks. I don't have it. My understanding of a mask is if you think you might have it, to wear a mask, right? But from the whole point of, the reason that I think there's a lot of discussion on your, Mr. Costner, your recommendation, we spend this money for, I don't think, listen, this has been talked about nationally so much. And one time they say you need to wear a mask, and then another time they say you don't need to wear a mask, and the person that might have it needs to wear a mask, but no, the people that might get it need to wear a mask. There's so much confusion, I don't know how you would ever straighten that out. And even if you come down on one side or another, there's an expert somewhere out there saying you're wrong. I don't know. I'm confused with it myself. But I don't go anywhere. I stay at home. And if we're going to pass this, then we need to all come in here with our mask on.
Anyone else?
My opinion.
I think it's an individual opinion, and if you're worried, put your mask on and respect others. But as far as us making someone, and we don't have a copy of that in front of us, and understand what you're trying to do, but still.
Well, I will, I'm not trying to speak for Vice Chairman Bowers, but he's not saying you have to.
True, but.
He's saying it's strongly recommended because of all these other things.
But
We're saying as a county, we're strongly recommending that you do this.
But as leaders of the county and as Council Hudson said, we're not setting the example ourselves. And we're asking somebody to do something we're not setting an example for right here.
One of the positive things we have here, we have a distance more than 6 feet from us to the people
But not
out
here.
there.
We don't have.
But
I love how you're not worried about Trey.
But not here.
Sorry. I love how you're not worried about him. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I started thinking when I turned toward you guys a while ago, here I am talking right at them.
I appreciate the form that Councilman Bowers has presented this as a recommendation, because I know he and I have a lot of feelings about government intervention. But I'm gonna agree with these two fellows that I don't, there's so much convoluted information coming every which direction, and we take a stand, And I feel like there's some personal responsibility and accountability for individuals. And when government steps in, even the recommendations that we recommend it, well, I'm not sure if somebody else will come out and say, well, you know, they said you got to do this. And we've had government recommendations get convoluted around, and next thing you know, you got, well, someone's wanting to go in there and humiliate somebody because they had a personal choice to do something different. I think it's a lot about personal responsibility, and I cannot see, I don't agree with the county making a stand on telling people what they need to do and telling a retail establishment you need to do this, or we highly recommend you do this or that. At the same time, we're not doing it here, and I don't plan on doing it here unless I get sick and I'll wear a mask. But that's my personal point on it.
If I may, after the committee met last week, I actually talked to several business owners before I went, try to be educated before I went in. I will say that a lot of the businesses I talked to originally wanted an ordinance out of the city. Originally, in fact, Chairman Costner and I were actually asked early on if we would consider an ordinance, and he'll tell you my response was no. It's the nicest way I know to say that. So saying that, every business owner I talked to originally wanted an ordinance, but they all came to the same conclusion of it's really not the government's place to pass an ordinance. What we would really need from the government is help us with the educational piece. That's really what they wanted, was help from the educational piece. And the conversation did happen over who is an expert, and I will tell you, by definition, there is not a soul alive that is an expert in the COVID-19, because by definition, it's a novel virus, which means there are no experts. So saying that, that's the reason so much has changed. We'll never have all the right answers until they have years to study this, unfortunately, and then you're behind the eight ball, So I bring this resolution purely at the recommendation of the business owners and the community members I did talk to. Their thought was that it's true, we've heard a lot from the national and state level, hadn't really heard much from local government, and it would help them implement the things that they're already wanting to do. Some of them, most of them are requiring masks in their stores now, but they want help with the educating of the public, and that's the reason I bring the resolution before you tonight.
So I will say that I'm agreeing with you on all of it, which is why I was trying to create this campaign to educate. I believe that as soon as we stand up, I mean, I'm going to agree with you guys. When we make a resolution, it's government saying this is what we believe. When we create a marketing campaign, we can still persuade someone to believe or to do, but it's not just us talking. It's that marketing campaign could be everybody from, the administrator all the way down to Dr. whoever to the CDC. That's why I wanted to create a campaign on caring, not create a campaign on wearing masks, because I do care. If I go into a business, I try to read the sign. If it says wear a mask, I get my mask out and I put it on. I don't care. I'm fine with that. I'm going to follow their policy because that's what they want me to do. But I do that out of respect for that business. I also do it out of respect for the person. If I'm sick, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying at the house. I'm not going up to visit my in-laws or my outlaws or whoever.
Maybe the outlaws.
Maybe the outlaws. I might visit them.
Well, I think what you've got is some business people. Business people can decide what they want to with their own business. And I'm like you. If it says I got to wear a mask to go in, I'll wear a mask to go in if I want to go in that business. They have the right to do that, but when they want, it sounds to me like they want government to give them the excuse to say, well, now everyone's got to do it. And once again, putting the burden back on us to do what maybe they don't.
That wasn't their intent at all, because when they wanted an ordinance, that was the intent. And then, like I say, everyone came to the same conclusion. It's not the government's place. The other problem is if you say you have to do something, there's no way in this world the sheriff's office could enforce that. There's no way any municipality in this county could enforce that. I know they're doing it in other areas of the state, and they are doing it in some areas of the county. But truthfully, there's no way to enforce that. And an ordinance that you're not gonna enforce isn't, won't waste your time.
Well, I guess the question goes back, if the owner of the business can decide what the requirements are for their employees and people into that business, what do they need us for?
Just to help encourage. That literally is what it comes down to, is to help encourage and to help educate. And part of the idea is with the marketing campaign, so that it's uniform across the county, you know, that we work with all the municipalities that are out there. Truthfully, this affects the municipalities more than it does the unincorporated areas of the county. You know, I think about the industrial park, and most of the businesses in the industrial park, unless you're working in your own private office or cubby or cubicle, they're requiring you to wear a mask, and they've been doing that for some time. So truthfully, it really doesn't affect, other than the solidarity across the county is the intent.
See, and I would argue that we don't need a resolution to do that. We just need to give direction.
Yep.
Is there any other discussion? All right, so the vote is on this resolution.
It doesn't have a number.
It is recommending the recommendation of individuals wearing face coverings in public buildings and retail and food establishments. I'll ask all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Those opposed? And that motion does not carry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, our next item, sorry, was there any other new business? All right, then we need to move on to item number 8. Unfortunately, the folks from the Pickens County Youth Board from Behavioral Health Services, I sat in on a Zoom meeting and was so excited that of the things that they were doing, they wanted to come and present to council, but they had conflicts that came up as a result. I don't know what the reason was, but I know they had conflicts, so they couldn't be here. We rescheduled them for the next meeting. On to item number 9, the South Carolina Heritage Corridor presentation.
Good evening. Before I get started, I just wanted to let you guys know that my team has had a blast doing this project. It's no secret, I cover the entire state, and I tell everybody that my favorite county is Pickens County. When I first started this job, it's where my office was, and it was like coming home. So we've had a really good time putting it together. But we've got a presentation we wanted to show you. What we're calling the plan is It All Starts Here. And the plan is pretty large in size, and I've got like 10 or 15 minutes here tonight, so I'm really just going to be hitting the tops of the trees, and hopefully you'll be as excited about what we're offering up to you as we were to put it together. Just to give you a review and what we've talked about before, a brand is a perception of your community. It's what comes to mind when when they hear your name. A logo is simply a logo. It should communicate your brand, but it could be refreshed, every 5 or 10 years. A marketing campaign takes your message to a specific group. So, you're looking at a brand, you're looking at a logo, you're looking at a marketing campaign, but once you have your brand put together, future tourism development should always enhance the brand that you've decided on. Just some deliverables that we have put together. We have conducted area meetings, we've done online surveys, we've held meetings with stakeholders, we've played secret shopper to a lot of different businesses, not only along Highway 11, but in each of the municipalities. We've done a SWOT analysis, brand concept, we've done research on a case study of a county similar to Pickens County in Alabama. We've developed a marketing strategy, and we're going to be recommending some key tourism development recommendations.
Can I ask a question? I don't mean to interrupt.
Yes.
I am not a marketing person. I have no idea what SWOT analysis is.
We're about to do it.
Okay, you said that, and I'm like, am I supposed to know
We're about to do
that?
it. Strengths. So it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Okay.
So here are your
Probably knew
strengths
that.
from our perspective. You have an extensive, unspoiled natural environment that is unique to Pickens County. The area here is suitable for year-round tourism activity. You can have something significant going on all months of the year. It is absolutely the best part of the Cherokee Foothills National Scenic Byway. DOT hired my group to actually go in and work on the 4 National Scenic Byways in this state, And out of all 4 National Scenic Byways, the Pickens County portion of the Cherokee Foothills National Scenic Byway is the best portion of any National Scenic Byway we have in South Carolina, hands down. You have a network of well-maintained parks and trails throughout the county. You have a 3-tiered lake system that you have regionally, deep Appalachian history. You have a strong arts and crafts community, civic pride in your cultural traditions, active communities that are receptive to change, and of course, education and research from the universities. Your weaknesses: lack of land use zoning to protect the scenic byways and viewsheds. I just said that you have the best part of any National Scenic Byway in the state of South Carolina. It doesn't necessarily have to always be that way. All you have to do is look across the county line in Oconee and the county line in Greenville, and heaven forbid if you look at it in Gaffney. It's terrible. They have ruined the scenic view of that byway because there's no land use ordinances put into place. So I know the Z word is a bad word, but if you don't protect it, you're going to lose it, and you will no longer have it. No major development efforts aimed at the outdoors or history or heritage, an insufficient marketing budget, lack of support services along Highway 11. I've been in Pickens County for the past 2 weeks on another statewide project that we're doing, and you would have to drive off of Highway 11 sometimes just to get something to eat. So we need to look at those things. Lack of cohesive gateway signage, lack of design guidelines in municipalities, and fragmentation of marketing efforts throughout the county. Your opportunities. This is the fun part. Positioning of the county to claim ownership of the mountains, lakes, and gorges. National Geographic has named the Joe Cassie Gorges a destination of a lifetime and one of 50 of the last great places on the planet. Claim ownership of that. It's right here in Pickens County. Claim it and market it and use it. You have development projects aimed at increasing the outdoor recreation here in the county. Development strategy that utilizes the great outdoors as the hook to pull people into this county. Creating walkable main streets with unique shopping and dining. The bones of every main street you have in downtown area you have in Pickens County is there. So the bones are there. A signature event to focus on heritage through music, food, and art. Again, unique accommodations on Highway 11. People love glamping. It's not even a high threshold of entry to you must like glamping. But, a tent with a 4-poster bed in it, and you can charge $200, $300 a night. People are doing it in counties right next to you. Orientation of the county through gateway signage, expansion of shopping opportunities, and of course, your new position of PRT is a great opportunity to make some great things happen. Your threats: loss of identity and character of the county. This is a very real and present threat. Absence of regulation along the National Scenic Byway. You can put billboards all up and down that byway right now if you want to. There's nothing preventing you from doing that, and what a shame that would be. Increased usage of the highway by heavy trucks as an alternate route for I-85. I can say I experienced this myself. If you're saying, hey, come enjoy the great outdoors in Pickens County, you can hike, you can bike, you can cycle down Highway 11, and then you're almost ran off the road by a truck. That's some serious stuff. Lack of coordination among communities, competition from the Blue Ridge Parkway and surrounding North Carolina mountain communities who they are spending money on tourism development and marketing. Erosion of your view sheds along Highway 11 and lack of state, local, and private investment into tourism. But I'm gonna get a little bit closer and you're gonna have to blow that up for me. I didn't bring my glasses. The first thing that we always like to do when we're working with the community is to give you a branding statement. This branding statement, you can just put it in your pocket, file away, never use it again. But the reason we do it is to show you that we have an understanding of what we're branding for you. So, I'm gonna read this to you. It was a land of smokehouses and sweet potato patches, of fried pies and dried fruit, and of lazy big bumblebees buzzing in the sun. A country of deep dark pools of the soaring spirit, of little rooms stored with apples, an ideal country for dreamers, a breeding great country to default the sight of God. Those were the words of Ben Robertson describing the Pickens of the early 1900s. Since then, much has changed, but thankfully, much has also stayed the same. Pickens is a unique place. It simply feels different here. The land speaks to the people, and the people respect the place. There is an energy here, and this energy is drawn from the land and the deep history that it holds. It's an energy that is passed from the Native Americans who once roamed the landscape to the fierce and patriotic colonial ancestors and beyond. This energy plan is a seed of independence and true grit that has shaped the county for generations. Decades ago, progress arrived and called people from the mountains into the towns dotted at their feet. These towns were once epicenters of trade and commerce, evidenced by the rail lines running alongside bustling town centers. For a time, the towns became quiet, but no longer. The energy has reemerged, bringing life back into the main streets. Today, innovation and modernization seek from the halls of educational institutions, drawing visionaries who crave progress in the backdrop of unmatched natural beauty. It has been said there is something in these hills. The mountains of Pickens County are sacred. They speak to all adventurous spirits. Those who desire to walk in the footsteps of those who came before, who accept the challenge to wander and explore, and who draw upon the power of the great outdoors for strength and inspiration. For those people, the mountains are calling, and their adventure starts here. So that's our branding statement, just to let you know we know what we're branding. This is the word mark that we came up with for Pickens. We think it's simple, we think it's bold, we think it says a lot about who you are. I want to show this to you because you're thinking, well, that's just a couple of letters put together, but I want to show it to you put in the context of other logos. So if you go to the next slide. It stands out. It shows up. You can do it in black. You can do it in yellow. This is what we're calling the word mark. So if you go to the next page, you can take this word mark and use it in your advertising. Adjust your altitude. Go where you feel most alive. And so the adventure begins. So you can see how we're using that font and that word mark in advertising. But here's where, that's just an example of what it could look like, say, on your homepage of your website. If you go to the next one, we've taken that font and we've put it into what we call your badge. We would love to see this badge on, right above your head there. We would love to see it on the side of county vehicles, on water towers, on your stationery. We're just kind of bringing that word mark to life, just to add some color and some vibrancy to it. Then we can add some variations to that. To one side, you see Pickens County PRT logo, the county logo in the middle, the main one, and then even like the Historical Society and the museums, they could use the other one. So you have several different variations that we're going to provide to you that you can use. That's just an example. We have inside of the plan itself, we have so many ads that you can use and they're at your disposal. But this is just an example of another marketing campaign that we're calling Just Breathe. You can take that look and feel and put it in gateway signage and in wayfinding signage. I'm not sure if you've driven around in Oconee County lately. We just got through a couple of years ago doing their wayfinding signage plan. And the purpose of that plan is when you cross the county lines, you need to know you've arrived somewhere. You need to understand I'm at someplace special. And your sign can do that for you. Your wayfinding signage should direct people to where they need to go to those key points of interest. So your wayfinding signage, again, adds an element of, oh, I didn't realize all this was here. And I guarantee you that if you put a plan like this together, even residents will find and discover things they didn't know were here. This is what we're calling a stamp. So you're going to continue to use your main logo for a long period of time. That's just going to become something that everybody becomes accustomed to seeing. This is more of a fun marketing campaign. You can use it for social media. If you notice, every Instagram, Twitter, Facebook profile page, everything's round. So we wanted to give you something round that you could use. This is some stamp variations. And we're always going with the tagline, adventure starts here. And this is not just for the mountains. Every little city, every location in Pickens County has something with the great outdoors and with the Appalachian heritage that you can tap into. Our third campaign that we're offering up is Use Your Outside Voice. There are so many people right now that are hungry to get outdoors. When we were out doing our research, we even came across some ladies that came all the way from Asheville to bike on the Doodle Trail because they didn't want to be in Asheville anymore. They came here. So I thought that was interesting. We've also, inside of the plan, given you ideas for doing special events. This is one that we've highlighted inside the plan called Gears and Beers. You have the opportunity in this county to become one of the premier cycling communities in the southeast. Yes, sir.
Can you present that to the city of Pickens so they can get on board with something like that? 'Cause I'm a cyclist myself. Makes me sick to go to TR, see what they do. 'Cause I'm riding through there this morning.
There's
on my
actually
bike.
something coming up with handicapping.
But, you know, please present this to
Sure,
the city of
sure,
Pickens.
absolutely.
So they
And-
can
and
get
you-
up with the game.
45 new businesses have opened up in TR since the bike trail, since the Swamp Rabbit Trail opened up.
Pickens, probably 0.
Well, we can change that for sure. And something like this, the city of Spartanburg, one of their local breweries holds an event like this, every Thursday afternoon. You go out and you run on the Palmetto Trail and you come back and you have a beer, and it's a great socializing thing for a lot of people. So you can do the Gears and Beers in downtown. I know Central has one, but you can do more of extreme ones up in, the Clemson Experimental Forest or any place like that. But we also want to have something for families and kids and people who don't drink. So we decided to do a bikes and hikes. Also, that's something to encourage people to get outdoors. Again, does not have to be in just the mountain area. It can be in trails in downtown or around parks and things like that. So we have all of that information inside of the plan. We're also suggesting that you hold a Mountains and Main Streets Art, Craft, and Music Festival. This county is just dripping of Appalachian heritage. And everything that you do at Haygood Mill on the third Saturday of the month can start happening all over the county. So we've given you some information inside of the plan to do this, and it really ties in some things that can happen along the Highway 11 corridor with the municipalities around the county. Here's another one, Pickens Proud, buy local, stay local, explore local. Again, I guarantee you, after we've talked to so many people just walking around the county over the past 5 months, not everybody knows that you can class 4 kayak in this county. Not everybody knows about all the hiking trails. Not everybody knows that SWU is doing a big bike trail. There's so many things that are out there. If we can start encouraging people to buy local, stay local, and explore local, you're going to start seeing a movement of dollars inside of your county instead of people going outside of your county to eat and stay and explore. So we really like this concept. And I wanted to we have broken out the plan in 3 different phases. One is Protect Pickens, one is Promote Pickens, and we've provided all of the logos, and we're giving you, ideas on how to market and how to do social media and things like that, because social media is free. But also Protect Pickens. That is the heart of your county, right there, and Table Rock, and the Highway 11 corridor. It is the focal point that will draw people from outside of this area into your county that can then explore Central and downtown Clemson and Liberty and Easley and Pickens. But that is your cash cow, that look, that view, and we have to protect it. Promote Pickens, that's actually the ladies that came up from Asheville. But we have inside the plan some ideas for how you can promote. And what we do with every plan we give a community, we're not offering up recommendations that we know are not attainable to you just to wow you. We offer up things that we know that your county can do and steps that you can take. So we really think the Promote Pickens section will be a great way to go ahead and start doing some great advertising for the county. And Develop Pickens. We've gotten it down to a few key things as far as developing, and I'm going to give you just a sample of those on the next slide. So these are just samples. Conduct a condition assessment of tourism resources. When I told you my office was here back when I started working with this organization 20 years ago, my office was at the chamber. I would get lunch or take a picnic lunch out to the Long Shoals Park before anybody knew it was a thing. And I would sit there, and it was so amazing to me. It was so breathtaking, and it was a great experience for me every time I went out there. I went out there the other day. The boardwalk's broken. The steps are broken. There's trash. So with the increase of tourism, you're going to have to do a lot more monitoring of your locations. So you need to do a condition assessment. Are the parking lots big enough? Do you need extra signage? Do you need extra trash receptacles? So we've given you that assessment and how you can make that happen. Produce and implement a signage plan. Utilize Mile Creek Park to recreate Fort Prince George. I don't have to tell you guys anything, I mean, you live here, but the recreation of Fort Prince George would be amazing for this county. It would tie you into already existing locations like Charlestown Landing State Historic Site, 96, and then Fort Loudon in Tennessee. It's that missing link of an entire trail of history that has been lost here in this county, and it's just a great educational tool, and so we've got information about that in there. Builds Pickens County into a premier mountain biking community. Again, you're a cyclist, sir. You said you want the amount of money that it takes to build a mountain bike community opposed to or compared to the amount of money that it can bring into your county is incomparable. I mean, you don't even have to. You can build mountain bike trails anywhere, but you've got the mountains. You don't even have to build the mountains. The resource is there. You only have to hire a trail coordinator and work on getting those put into place. It's a simple process, and it will be good for the county. And create a countywide arts, crafts, and music festival, which we talked about. So we lay this plan out in protection, promotion, and then development. I think that might be the last. Oh, and just because what we want is we want to protect the county first. We want to protect all those resources, and we want to protect the essence of what is so special about Pickens County. So to become a sustainable tourism destination would require protecting the natural environment, looking at economic vitality, and make sure the communities are healthy communities, both financially and physically. So that's all, becoming a sustainable tourism destination, which is what the plan outlines. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Wow.
One of the things that I saw, the Table Rock in the middle there, it seemed to me you ought to have a little light spot up on the top of the mountain so you could tell that it's rock there.
You said that is that what you were talking about?
Yes.
The dark blue one,
Oh, the dark blue one is the image of Table Rock.
yeah,
Right.
that one.
The sassafras and pinnacle on the back.
Yeah, I'd like to see something light up near the top to make it look like a little more like Table Rock instead of just another mountain.
Well, that's the outline of Table Rock. We took actually a picture of it.
Yeah.
The outline, but you're saying you want some white like what's right there.
Right, right.
Okay.
So I think what we should do, though, rather than pick apart colors and specifics of whatever, is schedule a workshop where we can all come together and dig deeper into direction that we want to give. I mean, we all have ideas, and you've obviously done really great work. This is a comprehensive plan and something that is, he's saying it under his breath over here, but 4 years ago, I just wanted to go thank you for saying some of the things that Vice Chairman Bowers was saying, that I've been saying for the past 4 years on. We do believe that God has created Disney World. We don't have to build anything, and all we have to do is promote it and figure out how to market it and protect it. So, and you've covered all those points very well. Any other just 50,000-foot view questions that you guys might want to ask?
One thing I'd like to ask you guys to think about is one of the things she touched on is protecting it, but the billboard issue on Highway 11, between the Saluda River and Seneca, or
That's going to be a state issue.
but
It's a state road.
true.
It
but-
is a state road, but
Only in the state right of ways is it a state issue. If
But
you
off of-
have protection in place,
I say we can certainly go that route and put pressure. I think you're on
That's
the right.
one thing
I agree.
I encourage us
Right,
looking
right.
at.
And we got to figure out how to do it. But I think it's a valuable point is that was something that, we don't think about, but yeah.
Inside of the plan, we've given you language for a an overlay protection ordinance.
And overlay.
So
Have you dealt before with prohibiting billboards on Highway 11
Not on Highway 11.
or other state
I've
roads?
tried, we've tried. There is a portion of Edisto Island National Scenic Byway and Ashley River Road National Scenic Byway that has some billboard protections, but not on Highway 11 yet.
Did you go to the local municipalities or state on that?
That was not the state, the state will not get involved with any type of billboard ordinance.
I
So it's
think,
local.
I think it goes back to what you said. This is all detailed discussion, having a workshop.
Right,
I
yeah.
think
So,
is-
so Councilman Hendricks, to your point, you're thinking just billboards. I'm thinking
Well,
about,
it's first.
but I'm also thinking about where you can create a driveway every 50 feet, or where you can, next thing you know, you've got little stores that are set up, because it's all private property, anybody can build anything there that they want
I
to.
think we need to do what you said.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's have a.
We will provide
bigger.
you with all that.
But while she's here, I wanted to ask her.
Yeah,
because
it's
her
in the
experience.
plan, it's in the plan.
Okay.
I do want to say that on the main badge, the 4 stars are present on the main badge, which is very important to me that we continue to remember what those 4 stars represent.
Almost back to the beginning.
Yeah, it's the main badge.
And there you go.
Oh, right there. It's kind of small, but you can see
And we
it.
can make that
Around it, it established
Down below.
1868. Scroll up.
I
Scroll.
want to just scroll to the,
Towards bottom.
right there, yeah.
There.
Around 1868, the 4 stars. I'm imagining match the 4 stars that are on the current seal.
Cool. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Great job. Great work.
Thank you very much. Oh, did I have more left?
No, that's actually coming from me. Before we hasten on, I wanted to show you a couple and I wanted to show you a couple of concepts, because obviously what you need to do, and you've got a memo for me in your packet about this, is what you need to do is send a lion's share of these recommendations, this multi-page, multifaceted recommendation to committee to study. But our staff is very excited to internally start using some of these concepts because we're so motivated by them. And I want to show you some of those ideas that we're prepared to start with as early as this week in terms of just social media accounts and things like that, starting to build out this concept. Parks, Recreation, and Tourism was the most logical place for us to talk about it internally because they would be in charge of this going down the road. If you'll zoom back out, these are just some concepts we're playing with. What our business cards would look like. I don't know if you've got business cards from the county, ways that we would be able to use this brand, this mark, this logo in our business cards, if you could swipe right. Another ways we'd like to go forward is simple as email signatures. Internally, we have got 700 employees. We've got 400 different email signatures. So I would like for us to start looking at speaking with one voice. We send an incredible amount of emails every day to the public, to people outside the county. I want to start doing this as early as we can with the email signatures to speak. The internal signage in this building, this is the concept of how we would roll that out. We could do that this week, and we're prepared to do that, where we put signage up on the plates you see around the building. Start using the right font, start using the right colors, start building this out in a way that we can. You see signage around within the building.
Did you bring your toolkit with you tonight?
We are ready to do it, exactly. Simple things like on our computer screens, you'll see the two on the left, those are computer screens we could push out tomorrow morning. On the right, you'll see cell phone backgrounds that we could push out in the next few days to start making our employees and folks in the public that wanted to participate start taking advantage of those things. These are things that on the work that Michelle did and the information that she provided to Allison and the PRT staff, they've already started generating content that we're excited to start rolling out. Just as an aside, Allison was hired into her position almost 6 months ago and told, don't do anything yet. So she has been playing with these concepts and is chomping at the bit. Keep going to the next one. Letterhead. Ladies and gentlemen, I love Pickens County. I hate our letterhead. Have you looked at it? It's underlined. It looks like it's from 1978. We could start pushing out things on the letterhead like that at any time. Consistent things like that where we will look like the 14th largest out of 46 counties in South Carolina. I'm excited about this, and I know our staff is. The next thing is what will you expect from us once we get the plan? I found in our office last week a tourism plan that's 10 years old. Looks nice. I gave it to Allison to look at. Don't know what it says in it. Staff's never really used it after that. So what should you expect? And I'm going to give you an example. This is something that would require, not like the marketing, the email signatures that you don't get involved in, don't need to get involved in, but things that would take work by you to institute, things that would require votes by council. And I want to give you an example of how we would bring them to you. Pickens County and the surrounding areas are rich in Cherokee heritage, and the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department wishes to honor that heritage with its rebranding of 2 existing parks. This is a hypothetical for now, all right, but it's not a hypothetical forever. The new names of Katichi Point and Equani Point reflect the importance of one legendary tale. According to the epic poem Katichi Akiwi, written by J.W. Daniels in 1898, a young girl named Isaquina was captured by the Cherokee and given the name Katichi. Katichi fell in love with a white trader named Allen Francis. When the young maiden heard of the tribe's impending attack on white settlers, Katichi set out to warn her lover, starting out from the area of Fort Prince George on the banks of the Kiowee River. She named landmarks by distance as she traveled. First, there was Mile Creek, then 6 Mile, 12 Mile Creek, and on until she reached the location of her lover in 96. Along this path sits a community now known as Katichi, the site of Pickens County's first cotton mill. The mill's founder, D.K. Norris, chose the name Katichi for his new mill in honor of the legend. The new park names reflect 2 important aspects of the legendary tale. Katichi honors the brave maiden, and Equani is the Cherokee word for river. Katichi began her journey on the banks of the mighty Kiowee, an important location for native civilization here in Pickens County. And these are samples of signage that we would want to put up on those parks. But again, these would be things that we would ask you to consider as a part of this committee discussion. I wanted to show you how we're going to use it, because we're going to use this study and get every ounce of investment out of it. We're going to bring you recommendation after recommendation. It's been all I could do to keep them held back till now. But this is just an example asking for no action tonight, but just to show you what we would like to bring you down the road. And I think that's the final slide. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Roper. We'll go to item number 10. This is first reading in title only of an ordinance to amend the accommodations tax ordinance for Pickens County so as to make it more uniformly applied to accommodations within the county. This is, I guess, something that we talked about in the committee of the whole that had to do with the language with regards to vacation rental by owner, those types of things, and we're trying to make our ordinance more uniform with other ordinances across the state. Am I right in what I'm saying? Okay. So this is first reading in title only. That I know this will this stays in committee so that we can continue our discussions, or do we need to move it there as well? I believe it's still in committee. Okay. All right. So I ask for a motion and a second to constitute first reading in title only of ordinance 589. Motion by Vice Chairman Bauer. Second by Councilman Feimster. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And that motion carries. Item number 11 is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance 588 to develop a jointly owned and operated industrial park in conjunction with Oconee County. Such industrial business park to be geographically located in Oconee County and established pursuant to section 4-1-170 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina in 1976 as amended, to provide for a written agreement with Oconee County to provide for the expenses of the park, the percentage of revenue, application, and distribution of fees in lieu of ad valorem taxes and other matters related thereto. This is an industrial park, just like we have done before with Oconee County. So I will call us into public hearing first. Does anybody have any comments that they would like to make on ordinance number 588? All right, we'll come back out of public hearing. And I'll ask for a motion and a second to constitute second reading of ordinance 588.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Hendricks.
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Bowers. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And that motion carries. On the consent agenda, I don't think we have anything listed on the consent agenda that I'm.
We need to move this discussion about this into the committee of the whole.
Of the discussion of
Is that done in a motion?
588?
No. The marketing program, they've received it
So,
from her and send it
so-
into committee so we can talk
Well,
about it.
what I said that I would like to do is, I mean, we can, and I'm fine with putting it in the committee of the whole, but what I'd like to do is call a special called meeting. This is all we talk about, because I think this is going to take up a much larger discussion, and maybe in addition to the committee of the whole. But if you want to make a motion to
It
put
has
it,
to be in committee of whole to take action on it, right? And then we do a workshop.
committee of the whole doesn't take action, only here takes action.
Right. I mean, does it have to go in the committee of the whole? So we could just, do we need to make a motion to receive the report? And then make a recommendation to coordinate a. So we can, are we allowed to make a motion at this point?
Yeah, you can make a motion.
So I make a motion to receive the report on the Heritage Corridor presentation, and then recommend that staff and chairman figure out a time where we'll do a special work session to go over the details of this and action that we want to take on it. Does that sound about right?
Motion and second, and any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. That motion carries. I don't think we have anything on the consent agenda. Mr. Roper, I'm a little concerned because I know that I thought as part of your administrator's report, you had another item to add to. I know we're going out of sequence here on this.
So making a motion to add to executive session. Okay. Okay, add to our executive session, update on project second.
I'll second that.
Motion to add project second to executive session, seconded by Vice Chairman Bowers. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. That carries. That's really the only thing we would have in the consent agenda that I've got right now. Thank you. We're getting ready to go into our executive session. I hope this will be very quick because we've got a committee of the whole meeting coming right after this. So our executive session will be on Project Jericho and Project Second. We do have boards and commissions for Assessment and Appeals, Accommodations Tax Committee, but we're not doing WorkLink, correct? So just on Assessment and Appeals and Accommodations Tax Committee. So I ask for a motion a second that we adjourn after a brief 5-minute break to executive session before we come back into our committee of the whole meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chairman Bowers.
Second.
Second by Councilman Feimster. All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. That motion carries, and thank you all for being here and being a part of this, and we'll see you back in just a few short minutes on the committee of the whole.